I can see Marianne on my screen. Hello, Marianne.
Hello. Yeah. Is there a possibility to check the sound and so on? Are we having a short break or how is it working?
I hope you can hear me, Marianne.
I can hear you and I can see you. Very beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Marianne, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you not hear me?
Let me introduce you to the audience. Marianne Christensen, she describes herself as a teacher forever. That's within inverted commas. And she has used storytelling as an art of healing. She believes that in order to change your life, you need to change your story. She has been an active storyteller for several storytelling festivals in many parts of the world, and she has just published a book and decided to go on the road to live audiences, but instead has made the best use of the Zoom platform, which has, to her surprise, given her a lot of hidden benefits. Am I right, Marianne?
Yes, you're right. Can you hear me?
So we would like to hear from you today on from no business to some business in a time of corona crisis. Over to you, Marianne.
Yes. And can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. I have decided I want to say, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very honored to be with you, all you great storytellers. And I have decided to tell about this subject by telling a story. And usually I do not use slides, but I thought that in this moment, in this situation, I would like to use some slides. And because that's another way of telling a story. And I just got home. I have been out to a group of elderly people today to tell a story about my new book. So it has been a busy morning, but here I am. It's just afternoon today here in Denmark now. So I will see how I find out to share the screen. Let me see. Maybe I need some help.
Is a screen sharing.
Share screen, yeah, that's it, yes. And I need to share like this, my PowerPoint here. I hope, can you see it now?
Yes, it will be on the way. Yes, we can see.
Okay, and I need to put it here. Just a second, this is the first time that I try this. Okay, so now you can see my PowerPoint?
Yes, we can see you.
Okay, so this is me, just last Sunday, telling stories in a very small theater in Copenhagen. And it all began here, way out in the countryside, a long time ago, actually in 1954, where I was born on this farm. We had cows, and as you can see, we used horses for working in the fields, and we had a tractor, but my father let the horse pull the tractor. So this was the first years of my life. Then I started having storytelling projects, as you can see. Here I am about 4 years old, and as you can see, my face is very dirty. So my parents asked me, how do you explain that dirty face? And how do you explain that? Because I had been eating a beet, a cabbage that I had pulled out of the ground from the earth and just, taken off the dirt and eaten it right there. And also I was using some water to play with sand in a little bin I had where we could sit and play with sand. And I was not allowed to do these things. So that's the first time I had to make up a story. I had to make a new story because I would not like to admit that I had been eating the cabbage from the ground and that I had taken the water. So this is where my storytelling began, and I must admit though now that nobody really liked my story and the way I made up stories as a child. And they actually didn't call it storytelling, they called it lying. So I had to stop that. Then later I became a teacher and I started telling stories to the children. So many years later, storytelling is my life now. I work as a teacher. I have been working in schools for children. I have been working as a school for at a school for adults in many years, a special kind of school we have here in Denmark, where I always use storytelling for teaching, for as examples, and so on. And 10 years ago, I lost my husband. He died from cancer. And then I started to see how do I want to live my life now. So I decided to be unemployed. I quit my job at the school and I started to do writing. And this is my living room. That's where I'm sitting right now, more or less. And I started coaching. And in this area, I went out coaching elderly people and other people. These people are connected to a church in Copenhagen, where I went and we were working with their life stories. And they were very happy to tell the stories to each other, because they would usually just meet and they would meet to listen to others, but they had never talked with each other. So in this case, they learned to talk with each other and they got to know each other, and they lived very close, but they had never talked with each other. So that was a wonderful project, working with life stories. And then some 5 years ago, I started joining, we have a local place where we can go and listen to music. And I was challenged to write stories to tell with music. And this is always blues music that I like very much. So I tried it out, and now I have been doing this for 5 years. This is not paid though, it's just for fun, but it's a way of training, making very short stories, and then have to have them rhythm with the music. I can tell you that is quite a challenge because I'm not a musician.
Really?
So I have been training and training and training to you know, come in at the right places, and I don't know what you call it, but getting in and follow the music. But I think that more the musicians are following me, and I make funny stories about my life, and they like it, so they ask me to come every time. And then let me see what happens here. Yeah, then I work as a public speaker, and oops, this is right here is the picture to the left is where I was this morning. And these are people who come to hear any public speaking. And I perform storytelling, and you can see in the photos that people come and listen to stories. It's very traditional. They come, they don't say anything, and they listen. And then afterwards they can ask questions, or we can have a more, you know, a talk where they can ask me questions about the stories. And I tell all kinds of stories from all over the world. And I tell, in the later years, I have begun telling stories about myself and my life in the 50s and 60s in the island on the island where I was born. Then I can say clearly that there is absolutely no doubt I am a storyteller. It's very pretentious to say that, and I took many years to accept that this is what I am. So I tell stories wherever it's possible. And then this happened. As you know, this is not my picture. I have to say that those are pictures I have found on the internet, and I want to give credit to whoever made them, but I couldn't find out where they came from. So it's just that, you know, that they are not my pictures. But everything went off, and like everybody else, from one day to another, I lost my jobs. I lost my income. I lost whatever was going on. They They could have postponed their jobs, many of them, but most of them just canceled the jobs. And the way that I am employed by being freelance worker, there was no, I don't know what the word is, but no compensation. So they didn't pay me. So I just didn't get the wages that I would have earned. Then, let me see.
Thank you, Marianne.
Yeah, well, I'm not done yet, but I want to tell you what I did then. I hope we have time because this is, yeah, so I had no income. I had lots of frustration. And I had to get an idea about how to get through with this. So I learned to accept it, and I said, this is my story now. So I found out it was not about the stories I was telling, it was about the story of me. Since I couldn't be a storyteller, I needed a new story. And how could I do that? So I needed help. And there was a nearby school for adults who applied for some foundation for help to pay my wages so I could tell stories and do public speaking on Zoom. I had to learn to use Zoom in order to be able to do that. And then I used Facebook for advertising. And I have really appreciated all these social media because it has taken me to a new level in my business. And this is what it's all about. It's about how can you survive in a new way by telling a new story. And then I had the possibility to meet my customers on Zoom. I had more time to write in new places. I could go out and write more because it was very lonely to be here by myself. I work alone always, but I went out, and then I had more time to meditate and reflect in my garden, which was very good for me because I was working a lot. Then I had more time for collecting stories in nature, and there is this place close to where I live. So the classes that we had planned, we took to that place so we could teach the students outside. And you can see it's a very poetic surrounding to be in. So this is just a tiny little part of Denmark that I really like and use often now, especially now in this time. So there's a new story about me. I'm still a storyteller, but let me see. But I am a storyteller in a different way. And the future, well, I'm not really sure about what happens in the future. So let me see. I have learned from this situation that any situation can change suddenly, and it is important to find new ways and to stay open to new possibilities. So new way of thinking. So that's why I call it change your story, change your life. And let me see. And I want to say thank you for getting this opportunity, and hopefully you can see yourself in this and maybe create a good future with storytelling. Maybe you can mirror yourself in my story. So change your story, change your life. And this is my contact information. And then here is my logo, Healing Story. So this was it. And I go back to, where do I come back to? Let me see. Yeah, I have to stop sharing. Yeah, that's it. So now I'm back in the view here and ready for questions if anyone has a question or just to discuss it. I can't hear you now.
Yes, Marianne.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, I missed out the last few seconds.
What?
But I missed out the last few seconds, but I got the entire summary. Your story is highly emotionally moving and touching, and you really showed us the path to move from lot of challenges in life and how to turn around your story to your favor.
Yes.
Thank you so much. One question for you. What advice do you have for people who say my story is all over the place, or my story is not interesting enough?
Can I have the first question again?
What advice do you have for people who say, my story is all over the place?
And what do they mean by that? What do they mean by the story being all over the
It's
place?
a very common story. It's a story which is there in every home or in every office. I mean that.
Well, I'm not sure I understand. I'm really sorry. You mean
Okay.
that it's a common story that everybody has?
Yes, yes, yes. That's
Like
what I mean. What advice do you have for them?
like if like in this situation where all of us artists and freelance workers, we lost our income and we lost our jobs. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. What would you say about people, like you said such an interesting story about your own life? What advice do you have to people who say my story is not interesting enough?
Oh, I see. Well, any story is interesting.
Yeah.
That's really my opinion that, you know, I have, like I told you, I have just been out telling my story about my life without children. That's what my book is about. And afterwards, I say, you can ask some questions now. And then nobody asks questions. They tell me stories. And I find that their stories are just as interesting as my story because I
Okay.
don't have any unusual story. I was born in a poor farm and I grew up with very poor parents, but still they were working and they saved money so I could get an education, and I was very happy
I
for that.
think
I
you
know
have a
that's
wonderful
not for
story.
everyone, but that's not a special story. It's a story that many people have. So for me, the point is not about the interest of the story. It's about the courage to tell your story.
Right, right. Appreciate it. Thank you, Marianne.
Thank you.
We'll go to the next speaker, Mr.
Okay. Well,
Sandeep
thank you
Kochar.
very much for
Thank
being
you.
here. Yes.
Thank you.